Hello and welcome to DIY Therapy. As always, we'll start with our disclaimer. This podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not designed to diagnose or treat. When beginning any exercise program, it should be reviewed and discussed with your medical professional prior to beginning. Information on this podcast is not designed to replace medical treatment. My name is Will. With me as always is Andy. Good morning.
Good morning. What's going on?
Not a whole lot.
No?
No, school's fully back in session in my household. And
Yeah.
everybody is off and away.
Officially back, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, isn't that nice?
It is.
I love summer and I love doing everything with the kids, but by the end of the summer the kids are bored. And as a parent, you're it sounds awful, but like I think in today's world, like we are almost like more or less like it's our responsibility to like entertain our kids, which it shouldn't be, but like with kids not being able to go outside like they used to and all that kind of stuff, it's just like we're constantly looking for things for the kids to do, and it's kind of nice to just have them
have a thing to do for
yeah.
8 hours definitively.
Yeah, and homework on the weekend, as much as that stinks, it's like, okay, well, that takes up time sometimes.
Wait, you guys have homework on the weekends?
Well, we have homework and reading and things like that. Like
right.
Ellie's in the 100-book club and stuff like that, so,
Are you old enough to remember the Pizza Hut?
The book it stuff?
Yes.
Yeah,
where you got your own hand, you read enough, you got your own little personal...
Yeah, I don't remember the parameters around
I don't remember either.
Yeah, but I'm certainly old enough to remember, and it was the thing.
It was.
It was like you worked your tail off, and I was a terrible reader. I mean, I'm still partially illiterate. If you're a first time listener, we're invoking a lot of confidence in you guys, right? At this point,
you don't have to know how to read to do what we do.
To do what we do? No,
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
All right.
Although along this topic, we're talking about sitting posture, which is kind of terrible. I mean, but little kids, kids our age, it's not necessarily an issue, but like teenagers and high school, college, this is especially bad for people who have desk jobs.
Desk jobs, kids who watch video game or play video games,
right?
Any type of anything where you're forward hunched at all,
or just any time where you're sitting for prolonged periods. Mm-hmm. A lot of times.
Yeah. So today's topic is really about sitting posture and kind of some of the muscles that are affected by that.
Yeah, and we're not going to focus so much on the lower back as it is like the neck and the shoulders.
Yeah, upper back, thoracic spine, shoulders. And then the cervical spine, the neck. Yep. There's a lot of different things that start to occur with those structures when we start to sit in a static position or a long-standing position for extended periods of time. What a lot of times happens is the muscles on the back side of the upper back region will actually become elongated or stretched out or overstretched out.
So those are like when you're the muscles you tend to get like massaged, not necessarily your upper like by your neck, but like the middle part between your shoulder blades.
Yeah, between your shoulder blades. Those are typically called the rhomboids, the mid traps, the lower traps. Those are all muscles that a lot of times get overstretched as we're hunched over or as we're doing computer work. Again, looking at our phone.
Anytime your shoulders are kind of like rounded forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so those muscles get really stretched out. They get elongated. And then when things are overstretched or over elongated, they tend to lose strength because there's a certain amount of like what we consider like a strength-length ratio that many people aren't familiar with. But the example I always give to this is if you look at your elbow, right? And if you walk... If when you're taking groceries in from the back of your car, if you keep your elbow nice and straight, okay, you don't have a lot of strength at the elbow while you're carrying those groceries, right? Or if you keep your hand all the way up to your elbow and keep your arms bent as much, or all the way up to your shoulder and keep your arms bent as much as possible, you don't have very much strength in that elbow. That's where, in both those conditions, one of the muscles, the bicep specifically, is going to be either totally elongated and stretched out, or it's going to be completely contracted and in a really shortened position. In either one of those positions, it does not have the proper length to actually promote proper strength for function. So when you're actually carrying in groceries, most people will actually have their elbows bent at about 90 degrees or a right angle. And that's when those muscles and that elbow will actually have the most strength because it's at the proper length strength ratio. And so when we start talking about the upper back region, what ends up happening is the structures on the back side of the spine will actually become over elongated, and therefore they don't have the correct amount of strength to maintain those postures, and then we start to get achiness, pain, etc. that starts to occur.
Yeah, I mean, the pain ends up becoming because the muscles are over elongated, and they're trying to get back to, they're not comfortable at that length, and so the way I always kind of describe it is, I was gonna say, like, from hanging from if you imagine you're hanging on by your fingertips by over a cliff, right? You with me so far?
Well, I'm with you only because of the fact that I see that you have a Ninja Warrior little
thing
out of the back.
But you're holding on, and your muscles are kind of, when they're elongated like that, they're in that position. They're holding on by their fingertips. So that you can do it. It's fine for a little bit, but after a while, everything starts to hurt, right? Because you're not used to doing it. It's not designed to do it that way.
Yeah. And quite frankly, you lose endurance. You lose when things are overstretched for too long of a period of time. You lose endurance. You lose tissue resiliency and tolerance. So your body just tells you, your brain, pain starts to kind of come on, or an achiness starts to come on to tell you to try to change those positions so that you can try to not have any damage to that tissue. So that's really where a lot of the pain will start to stem from a muscular standpoint and from a ligament and tendon standpoint. When you're in those positions for long periods of time in the thoracic spine and the cervical spine / neck, you also are starting to put different structures into some compromising positions, such as nerves too. And so there can be, specifically in the cervical spine, nerves that start to have compression or irritation, and that will actually start to send symptoms down into the shoulder, maybe even in the shoulder blade, and could even go down into the upper arm, elbow, and down to the hand or wrist. So that could be shooting pain, stabbing pain. It could be achiness that you're experiencing,
tingling, numbness.
Lightning. All those types of things that you could start to experience, all because we're not positioning our spine in the correct position when we're sitting for a long period of time. So really important to kind of understand those types of things. I'm currently working with a patient right now. This is her second time through. I was working with her earlier for a hamstring issue. And it's funny, she's 16 years old, and she didn't do anything that I told her to do for the first 2 weeks with the hamstring. Didn't get better at all. Finally convinced her, and she's a sweet, sweet girl. Finally got her to do the stuff for her hamstring. Did fantastic after that. She came in 6 months later, and she has this upper back thoracic pain, and she sits in a terrible posture, and she's extremely lax in terms of just loose jointed, etc. And she'll sit in a terrible position in the waiting room, sit when we're talking in the clinic in a terrible position, and I'll talk to her about how she spends her time, and she'll spend 6 hours straight watching Netflix and anime some weird stuff like that. Which,
well, it doesn't matter what you're watching.
It doesn't matter.
You're sitting there for 6 hours.
Yeah. Because she can't sleep, she's not a good sleeper. And so first 2-3 weeks, she was not getting any progress, and we kept kind of hinting at, what are we doing that's really triggering this? Well, essentially, I saw her a day ago, and she said that she finally was implementing these things, and she feels 70% better.
Oh, my, what?
Yeah, and she's a young person. Young people heal.
Way faster than my age and your age.
And let's be very honest, the majority of young people, and so I'm talking about 25 years maybe
down,
the majority of young people that have like chronic low back pain or thoracic pain or cervical spine pain, it's usually posture related, because there isn't enough time, unless there's some type of real true mechanism of injury there, in terms of like, okay, there was an injury that occurred that made your pain occur. There really isn't a lot of time for significant amount of structural problems to occur at that age. So usually it's posture dependent. And so if you can get out of the postures that are triggering those symptoms, it's you can really solve the majority of your issues.
Yeah, at least for that age. But you can literally
as we get older, it gets harder.
Yeah, it means it's like anything. As you get older, everything gets harder.
Yeah, and as we get older, there can be some more degenerative, some more cumulative totality type of effects that occur on the tissue that is going to complicate things.
Right.
But still, typically, very rarely am I not addressing posture with individuals who have any kind of upper back, cervical spine issues. It has to be addressed in terms of what role you play in your
And there is no perfect, when we say this, there's no perfect posture. So you don't have to sit, and I'm not even saying like everybody has to sit like a ballerina, like everybody has to be uniform, because everybody's different.
Yeah, that's a great point. Everybody's posture is very specific to themselves. It's very individualized. So what's good for one person may not be good for another person. So what you have to do is you have to continue to look at what it is
and what you can tolerate too.
Yeah,
Some people, I have a shorter torso, so I can tolerate positions like bent over positions longer than somebody like my brother-in-law who's got a very long torso. Mm-hmm. So he's he's tall, so
he's like 6'5", isn't he?
He's 6'6". So the world is not meant for him. So whenever he's he's always complaining about back pain, and it's just like, well, yeah, because you're always kind of bending over.
Yeah. But also, just to your point, how long you're in a position.
Yes.
So
going back to that, your patient there is.
Yeah. So it's going to be something that's different for everybody. Some people may be able to tolerate 20 minutes, and some people may be able to tolerate, and their breaking point might be like 45 minutes. So you got to get out of those positions prior to
the pain setting on. Yeah.
Before the pain sets in. And you're also going to, what's good for Will is not going to be as good for me, because we're different sizes, different shapes. So you have to kind of individualize it for yourself. So there is no perfect posture. It's completely individualized to the individual.
Yeah, because you'll see everybody's like, you have to do this. You got to be this. It's like,
there's standards.
There are a bit of standards. Like you do want to have a bit of bend in your lower back. But there's no like specific like measurements on it.
No. But I think understanding what structures are involved, understanding why there's some weakness, understanding why there's pain that starts to become developed over a period of time is all really important. So there's value in terms of understanding that. I think with our next podcast, we're going to look at how we can try to kind of manage this a little bit better, right?
What the next strategies are to resolve those, to help strengthen and put you in better position to hold a better posture longer. Whereas, because like I'm a big believer in like you don't have to be holding a perfect posture all the time, because you'll still end up running into pain. Because if you're holding perfect posture all the time, even if it's perfect, your body's still meant to move, right? So it's like whenever I say you want to sit like this, but you also don't have to sit like this the whole time, right? You can move around a bit.
Yeah. And there's times when, you want your muscles to be contracting to hold yourself up, and you also want to be propped up and positioned in a position that, allows those muscles to not be contracting.
Right.
So there's different strategies to, kind of break up those stagnant patterns. And that's really the key.
Yep.
I've heard people say that the best posture is actually your next posture. Meaning that, you're constantly kind of changing and getting out of those positions so that you're not agitating the tissue. And we'll talk about different strategies about that next time.
Yeah, and if anybody has any questions or comments on sitting posture and like specifically to them, like if they have anything that bothers them, like you always email us at DIYtherapy206.com and or tweet at us. I'll put links in the description. I always do that for you can join the conversation at Facebook and
sure, absolutely.
And I'll probably put up some pictures like of what some poor posture is on the Instagrams and stuff like that.
And then we do offer also wellness consultations. You can email Will at the same email address if you are interested in a wellness consultation, to where we can help kind of individually take you through that process.
Because whilst a lot of this is kind of not quite cookie cutter, but there are little quirks with everybody.
Nuances.
Yep.
So that's all I've got today.
That is all I have today too, unless you want to talk about your because you have delved into the dark crystal.
Oh gosh. Not because I want to, but because I'm so it's like a train wreck that I just need. I'm curious.
How far have you gotten into it?
I'm like 4 episodes.
And are there 8 or 10?
I don't know. For those of you that don't know, the Netflix has launched the Dark Crystal. It's Jim Henson's. It's Muppets.
Yes.
Okay. And I think it's a prequel to like
yes.
the original Dark Crystal.
Yes. It popped in some things that I was like, I don't really remember.
Well, I didn't watch it when I was.
Oh, you haven't?
No, I've never seen the original.
Oh, okay. Then you're all right.
Yeah, but it's a prequel to this, and the Muppets are, I think, similar. Like
yeah, they look exactly the same.
Yeah. And the story, I've actually read some reviews on it, and the story, they say it's more Game of Thrones than it is, anything for kids.
Yeah, because there's some, you mean the original one?
I'm not really sure.
No, the original one's pretty
kid-friendly.
Well, it's not kid-friendly. There's definitive nightmare fuel in that thing.
Nightmare fuel.
I'm not kidding. I would assume that the Game of Thrones bit is more along the lines for
the fantasy.
Well, not just that. It's like
not
even that. It's like the machinations between the Skeksis, the plucked-looking turkey things that are the bad guys.
The fact that you know that is fantastic. I couldn't tell you what the names of each one of
these.
Well,
yeah. See, I'm 3 or 4 into Carnival Row.
Okay. And that's trying to build some worlds too.
And I came to realize late last night as I'm laying in bed, I'm thinking about this, like, what would improve that one is a map. Because, the nice thing about, like, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings is, like, because it's another world, or, it's in a fantasy thing, you're like, okay, here are all the layout of the things, here's where everything is, so you can put in your brain where everything is, right? Mm-hmm. This is... Carnival Row it's all of a sudden like 17th century England has stumbled across like what they call fae, so basically fantasy. So like fairies are real, trolls are real, centaurs. What's the ones with the goat feet and the horns? I don't know what they're called either, but like all of a sudden they stumble across them, and it's not. They don't call it London. It's something else, but it looks a lot like London. But you don't know if they've gone through some sort of weird portal. You don't know if they just stumble across this island.
There's a lot that isn't explained.
No.
Yeah.
And that's my not hang up, but it's like I don't, because they end up expanding like per the typical English Empire. It tries to expand because they have guns, so it's fairly far along in the history of whatever world this is, right? So it's like, if it's an island, then how did you miss this for so long? If it's, I don't know, but there are a lot of things going on with it. It looks amazing, like it
visually
it looks amazing. Yeah. Like they didn't skimp any corners on everything. The way everybody's dressed looks amazing. Like when they're in London, it look grimy and just like everything is just like. The costumes on everybody looks amazing because the fairies fly and it doesn't look like Superman flying. They're kind of like fluttery and like there was a scene where there was a bunch of them flying and you could hear them from outside and it's not like a drone of bees.
Oh, interesting.
It was kind of. I mean,
I want to check that one out.
Yeah. There are bits and pieces that I like about it, but it's just like I get hung up. Me. I get hung up on all these like. That's why I need a map. If I had a map.
Well, but I don't think you're the only one that gets hung up on that because I did read a review on that because I was interested in. I was deciding whether I was going to do Carnival Row or whether I was going to do Dark Crystal, and I was reading the reviews and Dark Crystal got much better reviews.
Yeah,
but a lot of people's hang-ups on this is that there's just too much going on right now.
Yeah, because
they're trying to bombard you.
It's literally
it's
because it is because there's multiple things going on where it's like it's a refugee crisis thing because there's a war going on in the Fae world and they're coming into our world, so it's sort of like bright, but it makes more sense. It's more of a natural thing. Yeah. So there's like, oh, we don't like these people coming into our land. The humans are like this with the magical creatures, and then all of a sudden there's a guy who's murdering people, which they resolve pretty quickly, and all of a sudden there's somebody else murdering somebody else, and then there's like. There are 15 different things going on.
All these storylines.
Yeah, you should. And I'm not saying you needed to pick just one. You could have gone with like 2 or 3, but there's so many things going on.
Hard to get your mind.
Yeah, it's like, and it's like, that's why I just, if I had a map to hold on to, like, I don't know, maybe I just like maps. I like maps.
If you want Will to give you a thumbs up,
give me a map.
Put a map on it. All right.
Let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
This podcast was for educational purposes only. It is not designed to diagnose or treat. When beginning any exercise program, it should be reviewed and discussed with your medical professional prior to beginning. Information on this podcast is not designed to replace medical treatment. Remember, treat yourself.
Goodbye to the universe.